At this time, I'd like to introduce the University of Chicago Booth School of Business alumni speaker, William Conway, Jr. Mr. Conway earned his MBA from Chicago Booth in 1974 and is a founder, co-chief executive officer, and managing director of the Carlyle Group, a global private equity firm based in Washington, D.C. Mr. Conway serves as chairman of Carlyle's investment committees and is based in Washington. Prior to forming Carlyle in 1987, Mr. Conway spent 3 years as the senior vice president and chief financial officer of MCI Communications Corporation. Mr. Conway was the vice president and treasurer of MCI from 1981 to 1984. Prior to joining MCI, Mr. Conway spent 10 years with the First National Bank of Chicago in a variety of positions in general areas of general management, corporate finance, commercial lending, and workout loans. He graduated from Dartmouth College before coming to Chicago Booth. Today, Bill will talk to us about life in the fog.
Thank you, Stacy, and congratulations to the University of Chicago Business School graduates. I kind of hate being the person standing between you and your diplomas, but that is my role here. 38 years ago, in March of 1974, I sat in Rockefeller Chapel and had my graduation ceremony. According to Google, the speaker was Nathan Alexander Scott, a University of Chicago professor of divinity and English, and I have no idea what he said. I think at times like this, a speaker reflects on his or her graduation from the university, their success and lessons learned along the way, and then tries to impart some wisdom to the graduates that will help them have success as well, either by following the speaker's path or avoiding mistakes the speaker has made. For example, I could tell you, as Stacy did, that I went to public high school in New Hampshire. I went to Dartmouth, also in New Hampshire. I took a job in Chicago with the First National Bank of Chicago, mostly because they would pay for me to get an MBA. I worked there for 10 years, and I should have been paying them for what I was learning. I went to business school at night at the University of Chicago for the first 2.5 years, 2 nights a week, year-round. Then I left a great job at the bank to join MCI, which at that point was a Washington, D.C.-based long-distance competitive company. I was there for 7 years, and then in 1987 started the Carlyle Group with people I didn't know, with no money, and in 25 years helped grow it into a $150 billion asset manager. Along the way, I had a great family, wonderful friends, mentors, particularly my father, and good health. I could tell you about the importance of following your dream, loving your job, creativity, failure, focus, humility, persistence, gratefulness, and hard work. And actually, you could read a lot of books that just tell you all those same things. Unfortunately, there is no substitute for hard work. For the last 25 years, I've gotten up at 5 o'clock in the morning almost every day and been to my office by 6 a.m. And perhaps you could infer that if you followed a similar path, that you would have the honor 38 years from now of talking to the graduates of the Booth School of Business class of 2050. Develop plans and a goal, work hard, and it can happen to you. With hindsight, the path seems clear, but that wasn't how it happened. The path was never clear. Things don't work out according to plan. There are good days and bad days. Choices are rarely between good and bad, right and wrong. More often, they're between good and better, bad and worse, or easy and hard. Most of the time, instead of it being clear, you find yourself in the fog. The world is confusing, disorganized, inconvenient, and full of distractions. So many choices, either too much information or not enough. Here are some examples of my personal fog. After graduating from college, I had offers from Exxon, Procter & Gamble, and First Chicago. Which should I choose? Or should I go straight from college to business school at Stanford? If I go to work at First Chicago, should I attend the University of Chicago or Northwestern? I joined First Chicago. I was making $9,000 a year, and I thought I was rich. I went to night school for my MBA. Things were clearer for a while. I used to walk from the bank up to 190 East Delaware, stop at a restaurant on the corner of Chicago and Michigan for a quick bite, and still make classes that started at 6:30. In those days, Eugene Fama was teaching the theory of interest rates. Some of you may still have the textbook. Fisher Black had his option pricing model, and Sidney Davidson, who was a real giant in the field of accounting, was the dean. And I didn't know what I didn't know. After 10 great years and I thought a successful career at First Chicago, I then had the question, should I stay there, keep moving up, or leave my friends and coworkers, move to Washington, join a startup long-distance company called MCI? And in those days, there was only one long-distance company. It was AT&T. They had a monopoly. I joined MCI. It turned out to be a great company. In addition to developing the competitive long-distance business, now we have choices for everything. In those days, we didn't. MCI pioneered forerunners to the internet and wireless communications. And imagine life without those developments. MCI had dynamic and unique people, particularly Bill McGowan, the CEO, and certainly one of the greatest businessmen of the 20th century. Dan Akerson, who now runs General Motors, was there as well. I was at MCI for 7 years, and revenues grew from $100 million to $2 billion, and I loved it. Then there was the fog of deciding to leave MCI, the excitement, the growth, my friends there, to join an even smaller startup with people I didn't know. When we started, Carlyle was a buyout group, but it was tough doing buyouts without any money. We had to raise money for each deal we did. We started with $3 million in 1987, and last year we invested more than that on average every day. In the beginning at Carlyle, we didn't really know what we were doing. There was no book entitled Buyouts for Dummies. We were in the fog. We operated by trial and error, and unfortunately, the errors won. Shortly after we started, on Black Monday in October 1987, the stock market fell 508 points, 22% in one day. 2 of our first deals went broke. I wondered if I should have stayed at MCI. My partners and I refused to quit. I think I was more afraid of failure than hungry for success. Eventually, we figured it out, we turned things around, and we made our investors 4 times their money on that first fund. However, the fog continues to this day. My job has been and is to invest the money entrusted to us by large institutional investors, investors like state and corporate pension plans, big banks, insurance companies, sovereign wealth funds, high net worth individuals, and endowments. The University of Chicago even invested with Carlyle for a while, and their endowment would be bigger if they'd continued doing so. It's true. Which deals should you do? What prices should you pay? How do you finance a transaction? When should you sell? Should the management be changed? Things are rarely clear at the time the decision is made. On your great transactions, people tell you that you're a genius, and you believe them. And on your bad transactions, people don't have to tell you you're an idiot. You already know. Unfortunately, you learn more in your bad deals than you do in your good ones. So you aren't trying to get that much smarter. 38 years after leaving here, and 25 years after starting Carlyle, I'm back, but I'm still in the fog. And I'm guessing many of you are as well. Where are you going to work? Where are you going to live? Who are you going to marry? How are you going to pay off your education loans? How did I, and how will you, navigate your path through the fog? And not just the fog of business, more importantly, the fog of life. 3 ways, I think. First, you need to have clear goals. This is the path that you want to be on. It's not my path. It's not your parents' path. It's not your spouse's path. It's your path. Enjoy it. It's your dream, and don't be afraid to fail. You may have to change the dream, but by having clear goals, you're able to work on what's important as opposed to what's urgent. Second, get some good guides. When you're wandering around in the fog, it helps to have people around who help you. It can be your parents, your coworkers, friends, spiritual advisors, teachers, spouses. It's easier to see where you're going when there are a lot of other people helping you along the way. Someone to pick you up when you stumble, and believe me, we all stumble. Third, and finally, make sure you have a good compass. And by this, I mean a moral compass. As you're trying to build your net worth, don't confuse it with your self-worth, which is much more important. Let me repeat that. As you're trying to build your net worth, don't confuse it with your self-worth, which is much more important. Remember, clear goals, good guides, and a moral compass. Once again, congratulations to you and your families. I envy you the excitement, the challenges, and the opportunities that lie ahead. And thank you for giving me the honor of addressing you.